Now then, Barcelona suddenly with coffers full, all that Neymar money to spend, who they've said goodbye to Mundo Deportivo, speculating that some of it may be spent on Coutinho or perhaps Dembele, who they're saying hello to already in the Catalan press. Julien Laurent with us. Julien, let's concentrate on Dembele first. Does he strike you as a Barcelona type of player?
He's so Barcelona, Adrian. I think he's crazy. And in fairness, before he went to Borussia Dortmund from Rennes as a 19-year-old, he was already on the shortlist of Barcelona. He felt it was better for his career to move to the Bundesliga first because he was so young, because he had not featured much in the Rennes first team at the time in the French top division. He felt that it was a better step forward to go to the Bundesliga, to Dortmund, before, instead of going to Barcelona, for example. I think now he's ready. He had an incredible season with Dortmund. He broke through the French national team as well. And we saw in June against England, him and Mbappe destroying England's defense completely. I think he will be ready now for Barcelona if they put the right amount of money on the table and that Dortmund are willing to sell him.
What about Philippe Coutinho from Liverpool to Barca? Do you see that happening?
Yeah, I do, and I think this one is far more advanced than the Dembele one. I think, you know, they're flirting with Dembele if you want, whereas with Coutinho, they've already spoken to him, to his agent, probably even to Liverpool at some point. They will make a huge offer if they haven't already made a big offer, an offer that would be very hard to reject for Liverpool. You know, I don't know the Liverpool owners that well, and I don't know how strong they are if they want to keep Coutinho or not, but it'd be very hard to turn down the offer that Barcelona are going to put on the table.
Julien, I wish you could have seen Steve Nichols' reaction. It was basically head in hands as you pronounced that. It's that sort of moment for you, is it? If that happens?
Do you know what? It really would be crunch time. We will find out what the Liverpool owners are all about. Liverpool fans, whether it's about business or whether it's about the glory. Because if it's glory, Coutinho goes nowhere. If it's about business...
Well, here's the question then, Stevie. How much glory are you actually going to get with Coutinho being on the field if you haven't done enough in the transfer market, if you haven't done enough to bring players onto the field?
Ali, it has to be about the long term.
Okay.
And the message you send by getting rid of Coutinho, not only the players that are there and the fans, but other players, is Liverpool are not there to...
And here's another how much question. Julien, let's get you on this. How much would it cost Barcelona to wrestle Philippe Coutinho from Liverpool?
I believe that nothing under 100 million euros would be good enough for Coutinho, and I think if they come in with 100 million euros, it'd be very hard for Liverpool to turn it down. But like Stevie was saying, it depends on what the club wants to do and if they want to let him go or not. But yeah, nothing under 100 million euros.
All sorts of obituaries have been written for soccer. Soccer has lost the plot, has jumped the shark. Are people in France aware of that?
Yes, they're very much aware of that. I think, you know, some people in France share that opinion, and why wouldn't you? It is, you know, an amazing amount of money for a football player. Everybody gets that. But there's also a lot of people very excited in France, football fans, obviously, but also other players in Ligue 1 who can't wait to play against Messi, football fans who can't wait to go and buy a ticket, you know, at a club like Dijon or Amiens or Strasbourg, where they never thought they would see someone like him playing in France, but yet Neymar will be at all those stadiums very soon as well. So there's a lot of excitement. And I think French people get the criticism. There's no doubt. But it was always going to be the evolution. You know who you could get for 30 million euros back in 2003? Ronaldinho. Do you know who you get now for 30 million euros? Jordan Pickford at Everton, the goalkeeper from Sunderland. That's the evolution of football. And there was always going to be someone one day worth £200 million or 222 million euros. It just happened maybe a bit quicker than people anticipated.
Guys, has that reaction really been sparked by the fact it's PSG making the signing? Let me throw this out to you. If it was Manchester United making this signing and spending 222 million, would people still be writing the obituary of the sport of soccer?
Yeah, I don't think the name on the front of the jersey's got anything to do with it. I think
because Man United spent big money on Pogba.
Every single person that's ever been involved in football, when they look at a transfer, forget whoever it is, 220 million is absolute bonkers. I don't care who the team is, I don't care who the player is. 220 million for a football player is crazy.
But they spent over 100 on Pogba. last summer, and there
it,
weren't the similar sort of question marks attached to that.
And I think this amount of money that we're seeing from Neymar, I don't think it's going to skew the market. I don't think people are going to get close to this transfer for a while yet, because Neymar is at a different level of player than some of these other guys that are coming behind. So if you're not Messi, if you're not Ronaldo, forget about getting this sort of money for your transfer. As unique as this opportunity is for PSG, I would suggest that, yes, if this was in the Premier League, it would be celebrated rather than frowned upon. PSG is the sort of team that has this money available, that can make this transfer, and I would say to them, you know what, if you're willing to pay this money, if this is what it takes for you to be a major player and you're willing to take this chance, well then so be it. I don't think it's going to affect the market though. If it would affect the market in a way in which everybody now has to be transferred at this amount of money, I would say it's crazy. But this is the world that we live in, and for a unique opportunity, PSG went after it, and this is how they become major players around the world.
I think this money is crazy. And as much as you may want to compare this transfer to Pogba at 100 million to Manchester United, you want to roll the clock back a couple of years, Cristiano Ronaldo for nearly 100 from Manchester United to Real Madrid. The difference, I think, with those two, and in particular the case of Ronaldo, I remember when that record was broken, all the talk was, well, Real Madrid can sell these shirts. They will recoup a huge chunk of that outlay. Now, I'm not sure that PSG have the fan base, the global fan base. I'm not sure that they have the commercial machine to generate 220 odd million in shirt sales, even with a player like Neymar. It just does not make sense. You can make that argument for Pogba at Manchester United. You can make that argument for Ronaldo at Real Madrid. I'm not sure the same holds true for Neymar.
If you're PSG and you haven't had a seat at the big boy table, how do you get there? Well, you haven't been able to do it with the players that you have in place. And you wanna be part of that conversation. Well, now we're talking about PSG in a way that we hadn't before.
Right. Well, Julian, obviously delights the reaction across the board in France. Very different reaction in Spain. In fact, what do you make of the way La Liga has handled this, and Barcelona fans as well? La Liga very uppity about it, refusing to accept that buyout, saying that financial fair play was called into question. What did you make of how it went down in Spain?
I thought it was a bit silly from the Spanish league to react the way they did on Thursday morning, where they first refused the release clause check, from PSG before accepting it a bit later in the day. There was nothing they could do to stop the deal. It's a release clause. Barcelona didn't have to put a release clause in Neymar's contract. They chose to do it. If they hadn't put a release clause, they would have had to negotiate with PSG. Maybe could have got more money. Maybe they could have, not allowing Neymar to move. They put a release clause there, a release clause that was gettable for some clubs, not just PSG, but like we were saying, I think Manchester United would have had enough money to pay that release clause. Manchester City maybe would have had enough money to pay that release clause. So I don't understand the reaction from the Spanish league going all a bit like, oh, this is unacceptable, this financial fair play thing. PSG will get investigated by UEFA over financial fair play on that deal. If they can't prove that they still can balance the books despite spending that money on Neymar, they would get sanctions, they would get fined, they might get expelled from the Champions League as well. They're confident right now, PSG, that they can balance the books, that they will have enough extra revenue from the Neymar signing to balance their books. They will sell a few players as well to balance their books, but they're really confident, without a doubt, that they've done nothing wrong. So I don't really get that reaction from Spain, apart from just being gutted that one of their best players is leaving.
You mentioned PSG and the money they spent. How does it affect their Champions League odds? Well, not greatly, according to the odds makers. Bet365.com moved them up slightly, 11-1, but still the big four in front of them. Julian, back out to you. Looking at their potential starting 11, do PSG have what it takes now, with Neymar on board, to win the Champions League?
Yeah, I think so. If he's the Neymar that we've been used to see at Barcelona, and he can lead this team, in those big games, the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, the final as well, he can really take the leading role and carry the team forward. If Cavani has the same season as he had last season, where he scored 49 goals, the experience that Dani Alves will bring to this team, the leadership he will bring to the team, the winning mentality Alves will bring to the team as well. Marquinhos, Marco Verratti are two wonderful players for their age as well, probably the best in that, age group, if you want. I think they've got a wonderful team. I've got more question mark over the manager more than the team and the players, really. I'm not sure if Unai Emery has what it takes to lead a team to winning the Champions League, but I think on paper it's a very, very impressive team, and I think they would have a chance if they get a bit of luck there and there.
PSG now, of course, have potentially a bit of a problem. They might have to sell someone, having spent all this money. Is Angel Di Maria the man who could make way to allow for the arrival of Neymar?
Yeah, you're right. It's not they might, they will have to sell, because, you know, in their plan of complying with financial fair play after spending so much on Neymar, they have to sell to be able to, you know, to stay amongst the regulation of financial fair play. So amongst the players, they're willing to sell because, for example, Marco Verratti is not one of them, or Marquinhos is not one of them either. So the players that they will be okay to let go, and Angel Di Maria is probably the one with the highest value. And unfortunately for him and for the PSG fans who really like him, it looks like his future has to be away from the Parc des Princes. I think Blaise Matuidi as well, Serge Aurier too, Jesse, Krychowiak, Ben Arfa, I think all of those would be out of the door.
And where would that future be, do you think, for Di Maria if he's no longer going to be with PSG?
It's interesting because they would want around 45-50 million euros for a player, like we said, with highest value, with a lot of potential, a lot of experience as well, who's won the Champions League, for example, having even a key role in that Champions League win with Real Madrid in 2014. So, you know, they will still want a lot of money for him. Who can afford that? Probably somewhere in Italy, I think Inter Milan, AC Milan, surely with the new ownership they have, can do that. You know, would Barcelona be interested in Angel Di Maria? That's another interesting one. Could he come back to England? You know, what happens if Liverpool lose Coutinho? Could they be interested in Angel Di Maria as well to replace him? I think there's a lot of question mark around that, but PSG will have to hurry up a bit if they want to sell him before the end of the transfer window.
Kylian Mbappe has resurfaced a couple of weeks ago saying no, he's going to stay at Monaco. Well, apparently that is now not the case. So what's your understanding as to his future?
Yeah, you're right. That's the other big story, really, of the last 24 to 36 hours, is that apparently, according to L'Equipe newspaper, Kylian Mbappe has told Monaco that he wanted to go. We mentioned on the show a few days ago that he was getting a bit frustrated by, you know, the lack of competitiveness, maybe, that the current Monaco team was having compared to last season. Obviously, Bakayoko has left. Bernardo Silva has left. Benjamin Mendy, who's very, very close to Mbappe, has left as well. And Mbappe feeling maybe that's the right time for him to go. I was told something a bit different today, where someone told me maybe he's just using this way to put a bit of pressure on Monaco because he's still waiting for Monaco to offer him a new deal. He wants to put a bit of pressure on the club, maybe to sign another 2 or 3 players to reinforce the team. However, just a day or two before starting the new season, which Monaco will do on Friday evening, it's not really what you want from your star player, really.
What's a more likely destination, Julian, if he does go? Real Madrid or Barcelona? I'll just give you those 2 options.
Yeah, you're right. It's probably be one of those 2, although, you know, a club like Liverpool, for example, and Jurgen Klopp, a huge fan of Kylian Mbappe, and the contact is still very much alive between Klopp and Mbappe's dad, who's his advisor and looking after him. You know, a club like Arsenal as well, for many reasons, should still be interested as well. Manchester City have bid twice for Kylian Mbappe, so I think they will be in the running as well. And by the way, if people are really, really mad at the money that PSG have spent on Neymar, 222 million euros, what are they going to say if someone spent 180 million euros for an 18-year-old who's really has only played for 6 months of first-team football in Ligue 1 and in the Champions League? Between 222 for a player like Neymar and 180 for someone like Mbappe, as big as a prodigy as he is, I know which one I would find more mad than the other.
Good point. What about if he went to Liverpool? How mad would that be?
It's not happening.
I'm not going to say he'd be mad, but he'd be mad. He's not going to Liverpool.
No, dream on.